This is Joy News, and you're live on the Pulse, live also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. My name is Benjamin Akakbo. Coming up this hour, police confirm sudden rise in murder cases as figures released for first half year of this year actually indicate 313 suspected murder cases, with 306 of them confirmed to be murder. We have all the details, plus the police clamping down on general crime in the country, which seems to also be ticking up.
Determined, to fight highway robberies wherever they are in the country, especially Bono East and the Northern Corridor.
Also coming up, a majority of Ghanaians sampled in a survey conducted by the CDD say they are not confident in the ability of the Akufo-Addo administration to protect financial resources and curb corruption in the next 4 years.
So again, you can see that 62% over that's the highest so far in terms of people's views about whether corruption can be kept in the next 4 years. Again, still on the government's confidence in the ability of the government to consolidate and expand policy initiatives.
We'll also bring you details of a post-election research outcome conducted by the Center for Democratic Development, including why respondents think votes for the president reduced last year. We also go to the northern region where scores are still displaced following the flooding there, with more rains forecast for the region. We'll be joined by our correspondent, Martina Bugri, who was herself trapped yesterday.
The moment I reach the middle, I want to force and cross, and I had the way to push me my motor. So I decided if I didn't turn my back, me plus my motor will go off.
Also coming up, we are on the transfer deadline day. We have an update of which player is moving where as the transfer window closes for English clubs today. All of these and more coming up on The Pulse. Do stay. We shall be right back.
Hi, this is Lexus Bill, host of Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM. Listen, you don't have to worry if you miss Drive Time or Personality Profile. It's going to be live on our podcast page. Just log on to www.myjoyonline.com/podcast. You can listen to Drive Time, Personality Profile, and any other of your favorite shows on Joy FM on that page. You don't have to miss a show at all. Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Well, thank you for staying on The Pulse. On now to our very first story. And a majority of Ghanaians sampled in a survey say they are not confident in the ability of the Akufo-Addo-led government to protect financial resources and curb corruption in the next 4 years. The respondents are equally said to be less optimistic in the ability of government to reduce crime. This is the outcome of a post-election research conducted by the Center for Democratic Development. President Akufo-Addo won the 2016 elections on the back of a pledge to deal ruthlessly with corruption. Anti-corruption crusaders have since 2017 demanded urgent steps to deal with the canker which they argue persists. A cross-section of Ghanaians were asked whether they thought things could change in the next 4 years as the president completes his final term. Director of Research at the CDD, Dr. Adib Saani, has been presenting the responses. You can now hear some of the reactions from there as well.
So again, you can see that 62% over that's the highest so far in terms of people's views about whether corruption can be kept in the next 4 years. Again, still on the government's confidence in the ability of the government to consolidate and expand policy initiatives. We see that there's an equal split of respondents in their government's ability to consolidate the gains in the planting, rearing for food and job programs in the next 4 years. But the majority express lack of confidence in government's ability to expand the $1 million per constituency initiative. That's a whooping 61% are saying that they don't think that the $1 million per constituency initiative will be fulfilled. So in view of all this, what are the priorities that citizens are expecting government to pay attention to? As in many of our surveys, except the pre-election survey that we conducted last year, unemployment has topped that list again, followed by infrastructure and roads. Education comes in third. Management of the economy comes in fourth, and then health third, which is a little surprising in view of the fact that we are still in a pandemic. But these are the top priorities that citizens are saying that the government should pay attention to. And so, well, if these are the priorities, where should resources be allocated? Again, we asked citizens the priority for additional government investment. Again, we see education up there, infrastructure, healthcare, and agriculture as the 4 areas that Ghanaians actually recommend for additional investment in case government wants to increase spending. Again, so I am a little concerned about the bottom 5. Sanitation is there, given the fact that is one of the issues that has been on the agenda, of course, for the government as well, making Accra the cleanest city, for instance, but there's no alignment with what citizens are expecting. Okay, so like we said in the beginning, one of the areas that we wanted to get some sense from Ghanaians, because this is the first time this is happening in Ghana, was the expectation of Ghanaians of the 8th Parliament. So we'll look at a few questions there as well. So again, we asked, what the impact of the current Parliament meant to Ghanaians, and most of them expect the composition of Parliament to impact on some parliamentary practices, function, and government business programs. So again, you see that 80%, almost 8 in 10 throughout, are saying that it will force or ensure full attendance by MPs when Parliament sits. It will improve the practice of parliamentary democracy. It will keep the executive in check. It is only when I get to aid scrutiny of international contracts that we see that it now drops to about 6.9. I would even say 7 in 10. So 7 in 10 think that, again, these are areas where we need to pay attention to, especially those of us who work with Parliament. And then again, on the expected, and it keeps going down. So still on the expected hang Parliament, again, we see a drop in that it will slow down decision making. Again, we see a drop. It's now 6 in 10, saying that it will make MPs connive more on issues that affect them. And then it drops again when it gets to disrupt the MPP government's business and agenda. So Ghanaians are not really thinking so. And then next is it will make business persons unsure of the outcome of government policies and programs. And then there are 33%, which is quite significant, who say they do not know what difference it makes.
So those are some reactions from the CDD Ghana's post-election survey, but there also have been reactions from the NDC and the NPP. This is what they had to share.
And I don't want to get, but we feel there's a culture of impunity when it comes to government officials. And the more that happens day in, day out, the more issues occur. When violence occurs during elections, people have behaved in a certain way and no actions are taken, then how would Ghanaians feel confident that corruption will be dealt with? So I think it goes without saying. And don't forget, things have happened even since, which were not captured in this survey. So to be interesting, I mean, that is one aspect of the survey which should not surprise any Ghanaians, and it should be a wake-up call for the government to begin to deal with issues pertaining to corruption, not only when it applies to the opponents or your opponents. Look at what is happening in the Puni trial, for example. The lengths to which people are going to keep a judge who has been deemed to has made comments he shouldn't have made, and they want to bring him back. So you can see that when it involves certain people, there's some action. But when it involves their own, then so there's a culture of impunity. And that is what is feeding into the issue of lack of being able to deal with corruption, because we are not in government, so we are not necessarily involved in any acts of public service that can be questioned. The people in government are the government, are the MPP, and therefore, if you don't deal with your own people, then you cannot deal with corruption.
And in the pre-election, it was, I think, 46. So it's only a 1% increase. Go and check them. You see, before you do this, you should have got I have my copy of the 2020 pre-election survey here. Oh, of course, if you look at the hula baloo people are talking about, and you look at the survey results, you will be amazed. I mean, look at what people are saying. It means that there's so much propaganda than the actual work that's going on. That's the way I see from the results. And we must look at actuals than propaganda.
Chairman, there was also the point about your MPs as well as the president's own votes dropping. They make the point that it's as a result of your MPs not doing well, and also the president himself.
Listen. This republic started in 1992. MPP had 0 in parliament in 1992. In 1996, we rose to 62 out of 200-seat parliament. In 2000, when President Kufuor won for the first time, we rose again to 98. In 2004, we rose again to 100 and something. So MPP is not a party that has been losing parliamentary seats. Not at all. So you must check the history of parliamentary seats before you ask this question. I think on the whole, we've been doing better because gradually from 92, we have been increasing our seats all along. So don't take us for granted. If you compare to 2020, what is wrong with it? We are 137. They are 137. The single difference, he says, I'll join MPP because that's where...
So you're saying you see nothing wrong with the performance in the parliamentary elections?
Look, we are a political party. We trust what the voters say, and it guides us into shaping the course of action. We are not comfortable with it, but the way you put it, it makes it look as if we are down and dead. No, we are not down and dead. So that's why I'm giving you the historical perspective of parliamentary seats since 1992. And it will tell you that MPP has not been performing badly at all. That's the meaning.
On now to some security-related news focusing on murder, and police in the Volta region have arrested a man for allegedly beheading a 12-year-old boy. The incident took place by the Bator Aveyime Police Command in the Central Town district of the Volta region. In the Central region town of Mankesim, residents are asking the police to intensify patrols there after discovering the body of a pregnant woman in a pool of blood. She had her head severed and other parts removed. Her fetus was also seen lying beside her. From the scene, the woman could have suffered forced labor, as her fetus was also lying beside her lifeless body. Well, these are just 2 of many such murders witnessed in the country, particularly this year. Many are concerned about the trend and have expressed worry over the inability of the security agencies to curb them. Today, the police itself issued a report on the murders for the first half of this year, and as expected, it's not looking good. So we're going to take you through some of the graphics at this juncture, and we're going to take a look at the murder cases in the country so far in the first half of this year, 2021. Specifically, we're talking about January to June. So when you take a look, there are 313 reported cases, out of which 307 have been noted to be confirmed murder cases. So 307 of them, as some report 306. Then murder cases in the first half of 2021. When you look at the sex distribution, we're looking at 261 males who have been killed and 52 females who have been killed, and you can see that the number of males who have actually been killed is almost about 5 to 6 times the number of females. We also have a regional distribution that we can take a quick look at, and you would realize that the Ashanti region has the highest rate of murder cases with 73 of them. The Greater Accra region is next on the list with 46 7. Then there's the eastern region with 39, the central region with 24, the Volta region with 22, and you can move on to 21 for the next region. Then there is 16 as well. Then there's Western North with 13. There is the Upper East with 12. There's Savannah with 11. There's the Western region with 7. Both the Western region and the Upper West with 7. There's Ahafo with 6. There's the Northern region with 5. The Northeast with 5. And the OT region as well with 5. All totaling the 307 that we speak of. That is the current state of murder cases in the country. Now, the current situation is part of a general rise in crime, especially violent ones such as armed robbery, some of them on the highway. So what's the plan of the police to deal with it? We'll hear from the Director of Public Affairs of the Police Service shortly. First, though, some action has been taken already to deal with the problem. So let's take a quick look at that statement from the Ghana Police Service, and it says, police arrest 6 robbery and murder suspects. And the first point is that within the last 24 hours, 6 suspects have been arrested for robbery and murder and are currently under investigation. The suspects are Kofi Poku, Dennis Attasamwa Sr., Dennis Attasamwa Jr., all drivers' mates, Asante Edward alias Oboy, Dauda Apia, and Yusuf Abdallah. It goes on to say in the Ashanti region, preliminary investigations indicates that suspects Kofi Poku, Dennis Attasamwa Sr., Dennis Attasamwa Jr., and Asante Edward allegedly stabbed and snatched the handbag of one Sharifa Yakubu, a 22-year-old apprentice hairdresser now deceased at Kumasi Academy, SHS, popularly known as Kumaka Junction, while on her way to Asokore Mampong. She was rushed to the Manshia Government Hospital but died shortly on arrival. In another case in the Savannah region, suspects Dauda Apia and Yusuf Abdallah allegedly robbed their victim of his gold detecting machine at gunpoint at Telekura. Other accomplices are currently on the run. A search conducted on them led to the discovery, or recovery, I should say, of an empty shell of G3 ammunition, a single-barreled gun, and a cutlass. The suspects were arrested through intelligence-led operations and are currently in police custody pending trial. We thank the public for their current continued support and wish to give the assurance that the police will continue to work tirelessly to make our communities safer. It is signed, of course, by Kwesi Ofori, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Acting Director General, Public Affairs. First, though, we actually join security analyst Adib Saani for a conversation via Zoom as we get into the nitty-gritty of some of these matters and what we can forecast. Adib, thank you very much for joining us on The Pulse. Now, starting from this trend where we've had some 306, 307 murder cases so far between January and June, how much of a worry would you say this is for the general public?
Well, most of the worry is in how far we have come with the investigation, because last week the 313 was actually 309, and most worryingly, only one of it has, been finalized, meaning closure has been brought to the case. The remaining 308, as at last week, is still, some are still under investigation, and I'm pretty sure for others, investigation hasn't started. It's a clear indication of the fact that by the close of this year, considering the trajectory, we might have an all-decade high in terms of murder rate in the country, because the last time we had a high number was in 2017, when it was about 609. And looking at the rate for the first half of the year, meaning we could be hitting 700, and that, I must say, is worrying, because a lot more potential criminals are motivated to go into it, hoping that they will be left off the hook, because if others have been able to do it and nobody's been able to hold them to account, if they also perpetrate the crime, the likelihood they will be caught is very low. And it brings to fore the issue of crime and investigation and whether indeed our investigators are well capacitated enough in terms of skills and logistics to be able to make sense of the myriad, the plethora of cases before them that seems not to be making any headway. And by the way, it is also important to note that these are just those that have been reported to the police. We have others that are not reported to the police. For example, you are with your colleague in the office, the next minute his tummy hurts him, then within an hour or two he's dead. So you wouldn't even be able to tell whether he was poisoned or not. Or you see someone hanging from a tree, then you immediately judge that the person had committed suicide. There are instances people are seen dead with rat poison beside them. Then we assume they committed suicide also, forgetting that murderers can actually stage a crime scene to make it look like suicide. So the question is, to what extent do we train our officers, who are usually the first respondents, to safeguard the integrity of the crime scene so important information is retrieved that would aid in investigation? So we are able to build watertight cases against suspects. Unfortunately, we base it on circumstantial evidence, and these same bad guys are thrown back to the streets and they continue with their activities. So I must say, it is worrying that a lot more Ghanaians are scared. I mean, I've spoken with a number of people who are even scared to step out of their homes, especially after 6 p.m. Businesses are also not, progressing because people are scared. I have to reduce the amount of cash I have on me. Meanwhile, it is my cash that drives my business, because at any time, whether it is late in the evening or 12 midday, criminals can come into your shop and do away with your earnings.
So part of what you say has to do with the forensic handicaps, if you can put it that way, of the Ghana Police Service. But so far, in dealing with the menace of murder, and especially on the back of the acting IGP, Dr. Dampare, taking over, how would you say the police service has fared in seeking to curb crime? Especially murder, I should say.
So far, I mean, I am someone who has never doubted IGP Dampare's capabilities. I mean, his credentials cannot be questioned whatsoever. A lot of efforts have been made so far. One of the most important things I think he should do is to engender the relationship between the civilian population and the police based on mutual trust and respect. By so doing, a lot of these criminals who are within our fold, who are within the communities, we report them to the police. But currently, there's no motivation to do that. So for him to institute the horse patrol initiative is something I find quite plausible and progressive enough. But it has to go beyond that, so we are able to take advantage of the bicycles that are at the central warehouse of the Ghana Police Service, make it available to these officers, so we are able to enhance the patrol regime. Apart from that, I understand some officers have been deployed to some parts of the country, including around especially the Bono region area, to work towards reducing the scourge of highway robberies.
Right.
I've seen the IGP go on patrols with his men. He has gone around the country to familiarize himself with the workings. But I think that it has to go way beyond what is currently being done.
Okay. Adib, hold your horses right there, especially on the tangent you are going down right now. I want you to listen to ACP Kwesifori and some of what he had to share with regard to what the police has been doing, and then we can continue the conversation. So let's
start with the issues of highway robbery. We've noticed that there have been a number of cases that have been recorded, especially in the northeast area, the highways there. And this is not just recent, but we recorded one that has brought the nation's attention to it, which got a journalist, an international journalist, killed. What is the police's observation of highway robberies generally in the country?
One thing is we are determined to fight highway robberies wherever in the country, especially Bono East and the Northern Corridor. And we are determined to do that. Our observation pinpoint to the fact that the situation has been very perennial. It is a perennial legacy that need to be stopped. And the Acting Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Dampari, has pledged to the people of Ghana that we're going to stop it. And as a result, we've deployed special anti-robbery task force to the eastern region, specifically Afram Plains, Samankasi areas, and then in the Bono East. The Bono East, that is Kejeji, Kwamadanso, Yeji, through Techiman, and all other places. And we are determined to stop it. Our men on there carrying out special tax operations, targeted operations, as well as maintaining general law enforcement on those routes. And we can say that things are moving on very well. Yesterday, in the eastern region of Afram Place, for instance, we arrested 21 people with various arms, ammunitions, and implements adapted to cause harm and mayhem. And we are so determined. In fact, we are sweeping all those corridors, to make sure that the good people over there live in peace and security.
You mentioned that this is a perennial issue. Per your observation, is there something in particular that triggers this or creates that environment for these robbers to attack within specific periods of the year?
One thing is they normally target businessmen and women plying that route, those who go in to buy food products, from the northern side of the country, the mid-belt, among others, and also people traveling from, other countries, through that corridor to Accra or Kumasi. And one thing is that we've really identified all those routes, and we've put policemen out there with specific instructions to do whatever they can within lawful means to halt it. And I believe that the gain so far, about 2-3 weeks ago, is so encouraging, and we'll press on till we get them out. And whoever crosses the path of the police by additional violence to decent people in society, ordinary people in society, the police will do whatever within the ambit of the law to stop it. And I can tell you, those who killed the international journalist around Tamale, Buipe, Kintampo area, police carry out a heavy security operations, which is intelligence-led. The people were identified, and while the police about to apprehend them, they opened fire on the police, and the police used every means, hard palm approach to the issue. 2 were killed, and 4 succumbed to arrest. They are presently under investigations, and we'll be doing everything possible to make sure that they face justice. That is the hallmark of our operations. So the 3 special units deployed under the task force, that is on the northern corridor, the Bono East, and some parts of eastern region, Afram Plains, Samankasi, and other areas, are being coordinated from the national headquarters under the eagle eye of the Acting Inspector General of Police and the Operations Department.
On the specific incident of the robbery that was recorded in the northeast region that led to the death of the international journalist, have you started investigations? And if you have anything you can share with us on the update or progress of the investigation?
Thank you. Investigation is in earnest, and though the 4 arrested are helping the police, to unravel the whole mysteries surrounding the incident, and we'll be updating you on the matter for public interest sake and the international community.
So on the general issue of security, and this includes the issue of the MTTD, your department that is checking general obedience to our road traffic regulations. What is the assurance we can get from the police service? I mean, last weekend alone, just within 2 days, we lost about 21 people in only 3 accidents. What is the strategy this time around, and what assurance can you give to Ghanaians as far as these incidents are concerned?
The strategy is rigid law enforcement, have we seen, and thank God that the police administration has also unveiled the electronic surveillance aspect of it. So it is necessary that one should see a policeman before obeying the traffic rules or going by the traffic rules. Evidence so far adduced from the electronic surveillance is so enormous, and that over 200 people have been listed, and most of them have appeared before court and fined.
Adib, so that was my colleague Anas Korjobenu interacting with ACP Kwesi Fori. We can talk about highway robberies, we can talk about murder, among other incidents. But I just want to tease your mind on logistical constraints, for example, that the police service is facing, though we know a lot has been done in the course of this administration's work. And again, human resource constraints. The numbers, the police to civilian ratio still falls very high when it comes to UN standards of 1 to 500. We're still looking at 1 to about 800. What are your concerns in this respect? What should the Ghana Police Service be doing to ensure that the crime rate is brought down?
Well, first of all, it is important to recognize that when this government took over power in 2017, one of the first appointments the present government, the president made was the National Security Minister, in which I found very important because it was indicative of the relevance he attaches to issues of security. Indeed, it is under this regime that for the first time in the history of the country, we have a national security strategy. Aside that, this government has invested so much in the infrastructure so far as security management is concerned. The Security and Intelligence Agencies Act has been amended. The cybersecurity policy, which was first adopted in 2016, has also been amended. There are efforts towards making the Small Arms Commission an authority and all that. But as a project officer, I am not too concerned about I did this, I did that. What I am concerned about is the outcome. So in the midst of all of these interventions, how has it translated on security on the ground? Has it improved? Are less people getting killed? Are people get confident in the state's ability to ensure security, because it is their right to have the state protect them? Okay, it's a social contract sort of thing. I think that all of this notwithstanding, the security situation in the country is disturbing. Even the U.S. Department of State, in their travel advisories about Ghana, published in 2019 and 2020, points to the fact that there seems to be a growing trend of violent crime in the country. I think we need to approach this scientifically, strategically, okay? Deploying troops, okay, or police officers to parts of the country is not necessarily the answer. We need to make it intelligence-led, and I'm particularly excited that ACP Ofori has mentioned that, because it is through the intelligence that we'll be able to break through, because a lot of these robbers are syndicates. You see robbery incident happen in Tema, then another one happened in Tamale the following day, and you think these are two different groups. Look, usually it's the same group who moved from one town to another perpetrating these crimes. So with proper intelligence, we should be able to break through, get the information, and even prevent it from happening in the first place. Like we had a successful operation at Shiashi some few weeks ago. Secondly, one of the major issues we have is the response time, okay? Sometimes there is an active criminality ongoing. You call the police, it takes them forever to come. And by the time they come, the criminals might have long gone. So if we are able to reduce the response time, make it a bit more efficient, faster, a lot more criminals will be disincentivized from even perpetrating the crime in the first place, knowing full well that there's a likelihood they will be caught when they engage in that activity. So this shouldn't just be constricted to the police. Other people would also, or institutions would also have to play a role. The street naming and all that, make it accessible. There are some areas you go, you know this is a road, but someone would come and build and block it. Okay, so state institutions must work. Okay, so together we can all collectively contribute to improving the security situation in the country. And most importantly, finally, we need to improve security-civilian relations. That is extremely key. You know, sometimes when you deploy officers, the indigents know the area more than the officers you deploy. The criminals know the area more than officers. So they know how to strategically target. And by the time you arrive, by the way, they have informants all over the place. So they know, oh, the police, they just moved and they will get there in 15 minutes. So they will ensure that they do the whole operation within 5 minutes and they dissipate into thin air because they know the surrounding more than you do. So if we involve the people, especially through the chiefs, the imams, the pastors, and other opinion leaders, to understand the intrinsic value they have to act to improving security in the country. Of course, they would also not hesitate in giving out information, knowing full well that a lot of these criminals live amongst us. They are people we know. They are persons who also know us. And so the need for them to cooperate with the police.
Adib, just indulge me here very briefly. I want this to be as brief as possible. We've seen Dr. Dampare in acting capacity, and he's inherited quite a lot that he has to deal with. But if you had to give him a score, you know, based on his performances so far, what you've seen him do, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give him?
I'll give him 6.5 for now.
6.5?
Yes, it's a bit early to say, but based on what he is doing so far, points to the fact that, hey, this is someone who has that, you know, foresight to take the police to another level. As for the police, the issues are so many. You cannot handle them all at the same time, but it's one step at a time. However, taking a closer look at the efforts he's put in already points to the fact that, hey, this is someone who has that vision and has to be supported, especially by the politicians.
Well, Adib Saani, thank you so much for interacting with us this afternoon. Adib Saani is a security analyst. We're grateful for your time. In a related incident, police in Walewale in the West Mamprisi municipality say they have declared war on armed robbers following a robbery incident last Saturday. The robbery attack, which occurred over the weekend, saw several passengers robbed at gunpoint by 3 armed robbers who had blocked a stretch of the Tamale-Bolga highway near Walewale. Municipal Police Commander DSP Cosmos Awe made the declaration as the police intensify a manhunt for the attackers. The commander, however, called on residents in the area to help in the war against the robbers by volunteering information about suspicious characters and their activities. DSP Cosmos was speaking after the police raided several herdsmen communities along the highway in search of suspects.
They must rise up to help us because this thing is happening within the community here. You see, so when they don't volunteer information, it will be difficult. But we are doing our best and we are coming out to fight them. We are waging a war against them from now, so it's not going to be easy. We will do our best because we are picking information that these people trailed them from Bolga. They were trailing somebody in particular. It's not that it's a team that operated in Walewale, because that has happened in Walewale. They monitored a businessman who was coming to buy building materials and came and collected the money from him. So they are from his own place because they know that he's carrying money and they followed him here to take the money. This is what we are gathering. That was their target. So once it has happened, we are going to strategize and we'll fight.
From there, let's head to the northern region where rescue efforts by officials of the National Disaster Management Organization and the Ghana National Fire Service continue. As you know, torrential rains on Monday left parts of the region submerged and left scores of people trapped in their homes for hours. The rescue teams, we understand, are on the ground assisting victims with temporary accommodation. Many of the residents are counting their losses. Some fear their situation may be aggravated should Burkinabe authorities go ahead with their planned spillage of the Bagre Dam. We'll take you there live and speak to our correspondent. But first, let's bring back a report filed by my colleague Martina Bugri, who was also affected by the rains.
These are visuals of daring residents who waded through the flood waters to safer areas in their neighborhood. Residents say massive efforts was put in by the fire service to rescue some residents who were trapped in their homes.
Yes, we were compelled to invite Ghana National Fire Service to come to our favor, or else we could have been able to rescue people from their homes, including children, adults. Look at that house standing over there, full of adults. They couldn't be able to come out. We were compelled to invite fire service, together with NATMO, to come and help us save lives. And indeed, they have done it. We were able to rescue. They swam up to that house and rescue all those people.
How many people did they rescue?
6 people and about 4 children. Well, it took them time because they needed to make risk assessments, which way they can use to get into the main homes so they can get the people. Getting the right path into the houses was very difficult. It took them time. So they have to race and then just get stretch and then manage and get to the house.
A house collapsed in the Four neighborhood whilst motorbikes were swept away. A commuter said he was almost swept off by the flood waters too. Some residents called on government to intervene.
Yes, today is my first time. That's my route. I'm working with Dam there. Since this is my first time, I didn't see some before on this road. So across first bridge, that is the second bridge. So I reached the middle and I saw that the rain to want to push me inside the hole. So I returned back that I should come back and come and wait here. So after the rain, the erosion go down, I said that I'll continue my journey.
It has not been easy because as of today, none of us can go to Tamale. Any attempt, you may even lose your life. As we can see evidence by I think the incumbent MP house has been flooded. Mutawaki, former MP for Damangu, the house has been flooded. And so many houses, we can talk of thousands of houses, has been got stranded. They can't even come out of their houses. So we are actually pleading for government intervention.
For Mr. Dan and Mr. Mumini Zakaria, they want government investigate engineers who supervised the construction of a bridge 2 months ago they believe triggered the heavy floods this afternoon.
Bridge constructed not less than 6 months now. In fact, look at the flooding there. When they were even working on it, we asked them to make sure the gravel goes up. But now they have just wasted government money because now, when you come to see the place, the one bridge alone cannot serve the route. People have locked up the other side and the other side again. A lot of people have locked up. So what we need is that the government should come out and make sure any engineer who supervises work and the work doesn't go proper, they should query him. Other than that, Ghana will never develop. We are just wasting government money.
3 solid bridges. It takes the water from Garaba Lodge, it takes water from Agric, it takes water from community and other link roads. Now this small bridge, how can it contain the water? We're just lucky that the rain has subsided. Assuming it continues. Now people's homes are submerged. That's submerged in water. You know, so it's time government make sure that when they are allocating or they are giving projects, they make sure the right person get the project and do a proper job so that at the end it will save Ghana a lot of money. But if you do shoddy work, it is our money they will use to pay them, and then the next moment we have to call for another project. It doesn't make sense.
Sad development there, and even as residents count their losses, the Ghana Meteorological Agency is warning of more rain ahead as they urge residents to brace themselves. Joshua Asamoah speaks for the agency.
What makes Tamale's case peculiar is that the storm stagnated over that area for a very long time before it drifted to the Upper West and Savannah regions. So the heavy rains they had was because of the stagnation of the storm, which affected the northern portions of the country over Tamale more areas in the northern region before we went to the Savannah and upper west regions. So it's conditions that they will be experiencing because we are still in the rainy season over the northern portions. So it's not really an odd situation, but I think just like the man on the ground said, there are some factors that are local and activities by man which will cause some of these flooding events to occur, but the rainfall that occurred was not really out of the ordinary.
Now, before the northern region of Tamale had its rain yesterday, we've had some rain as well in the upper west region where we saw some roads and all that damaged. Would you say it still has to do with the rainy season because the rains were quite heavy?
Yes, it still has to do with the rainy season. The rainy season, northern Ghana has one rainy season. So it starts somewhere in June, July there, and then goes all the way to September before it subsides, and then they enter into the dry season. But for us in the south, we get two rainy seasons. The major one will come in April, May, June, and then we'll get a break around July, August, before we enter into the minor rainy season in September, October, and November. So before we will enter into our minor rainy season, the north will continue to be experiencing some of these rains. And then the upper west rains came in August, which is still the peak of the rainfall season in the northern sector. So it's still the rains they are getting because they are in their peak rainfall season. It's nothing really. It's very likely we'll get another rainstorm this week, hopefully between Wednesday and Thursday.
Now, despite fears from some residents that their situation may be aggravated should Burkinabe authorities go ahead with their planned spillage of the Bagre Dam, NADMO says they are well prepared to cushion the impact of the spillage should it happen. Northern Regional Director Al-Hassan John Kweku gave the assurance also on the AM show.
We are still in the midst of the rains, and then the education too is ongoing. So we are appealing to residents, especially those of our people who are living in those areas that are likely to be affected and the flood-prone areas, to be cautious about their own life, because it is important they take their lives very seriously so that we don't lose any life longer. For instance, in the Chelponi area, there was a situation where some 3 young ladies went to do washing in a stream. And then after they have done the washing, then they decided to swim. And then the water carried them away. And then in Bumpuru, for instance, a woman and the daughter went to farm. And then on their return, there was heavy downpour. Instead of them to stay at a particular place for the water to recede in the river before they cross, they attempted crossing and the water carried them away. So we are just appealing to residents. Water is not something that we can be playing with. So when it is raining, you get a place to stay so that when the water recedes, then you can go about your normal work. But for now, in the East region, even though it is raining in Gambaga, the situation is under control. NADMO is positioning itself strategically to deal with any situation that will arrive as a result of this. But the impact, the spillage has not been done yet. And we are monitoring the situation. As and when we get any other information, then we'll share with you.
Now, we shall return on this issue and interact with Martina Bugri, who's our correspondent in the northern region. But right now, we're getting some details as far as the spillage of the Bagre Dam is concerned. And I'm going to be interacting with my colleague there, Albert Sori, who joins us with details. Albert, if you can hear me, we're hearing that there's going to be some delay in the spillage as far as the Bagre Dam is concerned. Give us details.
The operators of the Bagre Dam in Burkina Faso, Sonabel Energy, had announced that they will likely begin the spilling of the dam between the 27th and the 30th of this month. And so from the 27th up to now, every day they release a statement which they share with their partners, including Ghana. Now, usually it is the regional NADMO office that shares the statements with us. And every day what they do is to update the country on the level of rise in the Bagre Dam to tell us if it is close to being spilled or not. And so today, the statement they released is indicating that the level of rise had not gotten to the maximum capacity, which is usually 234.75 meters. That is when they usually would start spilling. And so as of today, the level had gotten to 234.41 meters, which is very close to, the level at which they usually spill. And so, we are just been wondering, and when you talk to farmers, the question everybody asks is whether the authority shouldn't begin, just letting out the water little by little instead of waiting till it gets to its maximum capacity. But this is the information they have given us. And so at the moment, what we know is that they have not yet started spilling. But when it gets to the maximum capacity, which is 234.75 meters, they will likely begin spilling the dam. And so when that happens, they will communicate same to the country. So this is information I got this afternoon from the regional NADMO office. At the moment, we don't know if finally the capacity has gotten to where they normally would
let me just confirm with you briefly. You made mention of the 27th, if I heard you correctly. Today happens to be the 31st day of August. Did you mean the 7th for the commencement of spilling, or did you mean the 27th of September? Please clarify.
No, 27th of August. They communicated that the level at which the dam was rising, that was last week. The first statement they released to indicate when they are likely to start spilling said that as at last week, the level of rise was indicating that between 27th and 30th, which should have been yesterday, they would have spilled it between that time. But they haven't. Even as of today, they had not started spilling. When I last checked this afternoon with the regional NADMO office. So that is what we are experiencing. It is likely they will still spill, but at the moment, the indication is that the maximum capacity of the dam had not, the level of the water had not gotten to the maximum capacity, and so they had not started the spillage.
Albert, thank you very much for the clarity there. Albert Torre is our Upper East regional correspondent. Let's cross over now to Martina Bugri, who has also personally been affected in the latest Tamale flooding in the northern region. Martina, now, when I spoke to you earlier in the day, you gave a picture of what exactly had been happening. The waters were receding, and NADMO officials were trying to lend what help they could to those affected. What is the current situation, and is there any rain again in Tamale?
No, for now the rain hasn't come yet. The clouds keep gathering and disappearing. As we speak now, the sun is up, and so people are hoping that it remains this way throughout the rest of the day. I must say that NADMO says it started gathering data on those who are displaced, so that they'll be able to give us accurate figures on the real situation on the ground. That's what's coming from NADMO at the moment. But I must also add that farmers who had their farms submerged, this afternoon when I went through the community again, I saw some of them had come around to have a peep around and see if there's anything they could do. It looks like they are helpless. There is nothing they can do for now, but go back to their homes and then probably come tomorrow next, if it doesn't rain again, so that they'll be able to look at what they can take from the remains. Like I said earlier in the day, we visited some homes, some have lost electrical gadgets, fridges and stuff. I spoke to a woman who said that yesterday she has to send her children away and try to see if she could salvage anything. But it turned out that she had to flee herself because the water was so heavy that she needed to save her own life. And so she lost eventually everything at home, including food that they were supposed to eat, So it shows how devastating yesterday the floods are. We can listen to some of the residents I spoke to this afternoon.
This torrential rain that came down caused a whole lot of mess. But our problem was this very wall. Because as the water gathers up to this place, it finds it difficult to pass through. And by that, we got our rooms flooded. We had our food items lost, our mattresses, our clothing, and our chairs were all wet. And we are pleading that if the NADMO could do anything about this very war, I believe that will help us a lot, because by then, any water that will come this way will have the access to flow into the main drain that is down there. And that is what we are pleading.
Whoever is concerned, I mean the authorities, because this is a result of the bridge here. It has been happening, but not this magnitude. But since they constructed it, even before this one happened, the last rain it happened, so the other side was very much affected, but we were not affected. But now, when the water comes and it doesn't pass, they didn't direct the way where the water should pass, so it comes back this way. So that is part of the problem, even though the run was heavy, but it is part of the problem that we have faced.
The rain started around, so it started raining and I was inside and the children were here. So I was baffled. They called me that the rain is coming inside. So immediately I came to the veranda, the rain was full there. When we entered, I said, let us pack the things. It have enter everywhere in the room. Everything inside the room have just water. So we came out and we called people to come and send the children. So left me alone here, and I started packing things and all our fridge, everything. Full of water.
Are your things spoiled?
Yeah.
Even
the fridge is not working. The big one, the deep freezer is not working. One of our TV spoiled. All the mattress full of water.
Wow. What do you think could have caused it around this area?
The gutter. The gutter is our major problem here. We don't have big gutter that water can pass inside and go. So all the water from here with speed, it passed here and came back because of this wall. When the water it will come back and enter. The water is from here. It will come here and go here. There's no way for the water to pass though. It will come back and enter there. So we want gutter. They should come and do our gutter.
So those were some residents in Tamale sharing their plight. Martina, now to wrap, the National Disaster Management Organization officers have been around. How much have they done so far in terms of helping those in need?
No, nothing has been done yet. We are told that they are gathering data. Until they are able to get this data, then they know exactly who is affected and what they need before they'll begin offering relief. And so those who have relatives and friends outside their community would only do the cleaning a bit and then go back to the community and sleep and then come back the next day, so that people do not take advantage and go into their homes whilst they are away to try to steal something. And so basically that's what is happening as we speak in the northern region capital, Tamale.
Martina Bugri, thank you very much for bringing us those updates. We take a break here. You're still live on The Pulse with me, Benjamin Akapo. We shall be right back. Do stay.
Hi, this is Lexus Bill, host of Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM. Listen, you don't have to worry if you miss Drive Time or Personality Profile. It's going to be live on our podcast page. Just log on to www.myjoyonline.com/podcast. You can listen to Drive Time, Personality Profile, and any other of your favorite shows on Joy FM on that page. You don't have to miss a show at all. Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Welcome back on The Pulse. Thank you for staying. Let's get into news about the scourge of pregnancies in school. Now, there's growing concern among educationists about the sudden rise in the number of girls who return to school pregnant after the 10-month COVID-19 shutdown of schools. In a recent report released by the GES, more than 109,000 girls were found to have taken seed during the period, with nearly 3,000 of them between the ages of 10 and 14. More than 107,000 were between 15 and 19 years old. This afternoon, we're focusing attention on the Upper West region, where 694 girls have been found to be pregnant. We have a conversation with our correspondent on this shortly, and we're also going to speak to officials of an NGO, Educational Resources, which is looking at sexual harassment generally in schools. First, though, we interact with Rafiq Salam all the way from Wa. Rafiq, also joining us now is Kojo Brumpong, Executive Director, Educational Resources. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining the conversation. But Rafiq, even before I get to our guest, paint the picture for us. What is the reality, and how much does this reveal, basically, about pregnancies in schools? I
can barely hear you.
Rafiq, so my question is, on the back of... Can you hear me now, Rafiq Salam?
Hello?
So I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to work again that connection with Rafiq Salam so we can have a better connection. Rafiq, can you hear me now? Is it better? Well, I think we still do not have Rafiq, so we'll move on to Edward. Now, Edward, basically, on the back of what we have heard, your group is trying to put forward measures to make even more concrete sexual harassment and other, measures to be brought to bear against those, engaging in this activity, impregnating the young ones. What can you share about that with us?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Please go on.
Good. We are Educational Resources. We know that one of the issues in adolescent development is engaging in sexual activities. It's a reality many of us try to desist from talking about, but there's always peer pressure to experiment with sex at that age. So there's always a need to actually educate the young ones about the challenges with early sexual experimentations. And that's why we at Educational Resources, we go into the schools to mentor the children and then interact with them, and especially encourage them to desist from sexual experimentation. We have to understand that as a society, many parents do not have conversations about sex with their children. And so most of these children, what they know about sex comes from their peers. So there's a huge peer pressure to engage in adult-like activities. And it is the main reason for the cause of these pregnancies that happened out of school. We believe that if there's more education in schools about sex, it would help to minimize such occurrences.
Right. Thank you very much for that initial submission, Edward. Let's try to reconnect with Rafiq Salam to give us more details about this. Rafiq, can you hear me now? Hello, Rafiq. Is the connection better now? Can you hear what I'm saying? Well, we still have a challenge with Rafiq Salam, but we're going to continue working the lines to ensure that we can reach him, because we need further details about this development and what measures are being put in place to stem the tide of same. Is that Rafiq I hear now? Well, I think we still have a challenge. Let me come back to Edward. So you have started this initiative in the schools. What so far have been the gains that you have made? What have you been able to achieve so far as this situation is concerned? Because year in, year out, we face the same situation.
Well, the gains are hard to quantify because you are dealing with trying to mold attitudes so you don't get instant gains. But we believe in the long run, a lot more of these teenagers would not experiment in sex. So this is basically the education. We make them understand early sexual experimentation is also associated with high-risk behavior, because if you can engage in sex at the age of 13, 14, 15, the probability is that you might also engage in other high-risk activities. So we have what we call mentoring sessions with the children. And then for those who have peculiar challenges, we try to find ways to help them.
So, Edward, if I may ask, is your target group only the young ones? Because if you look at the dynamics of this situation, on the back of COVID-19, we've heard of how some incestuous activities have taken place. Sometimes even relatives have impregnated some of these schoolgirls. We've had situations where people from school themselves have been involved. So is it just the students you are targeting? Beyond that, what happens to the real perpetrators when it comes to the men involved? Are you looking at them as well?
Okay, so it's not just the school children we are targeting, because we want the school environment to be safe. So it's not just the school children. It includes everyone who works in the school environment. And that is why we recently issued a communique that Education Service, the ministry, should actually do more to actually provide guidance to students and teachers alike and all workers within the school environment, to reorient them, to give them more education on sexual activities and sexual abuse. Because there have been incidents where some adults or some teachers or some workers within the school environment actually are the ones who abuse these young ones or engage in these sexual activities with these young ones. So the reach is not focused only on the children, but on everybody who works in the school environment. But more importantly, we believe that if we can give the right education to the younger ones, then they can actually report advances made towards them. They can report sexual advances, and then they can actually be in a position to also resist those who make such advances towards them. Let's not forget that in our society, we sometimes forget to listen to the voice of the children. So we want to empower the children to be able to speak up. And the more they speak up, the more we can get such activities to go down.
Right before I cross over to Rafiq Salam, I'd just like to put this to you. Do you feel we need stiffer measures, policies maybe, in our educational setup when it comes to sexual harassment and maybe teachers who impregnate such school children? Do you feel we need that?
We definitely need that. When it comes to sexual harassment, we need extremely stiff punishments so that we can deter people from even trying to engage in it. Otherwise, you find yourself in a scenario where a student, a pupil, a young person is being harassed by an older person. Who do you report it to? Let me give you a scenario. What about if it is, let's say, the head of the school harassing a young person? There's no avenue for them to report such issues. So we believe that the ministry and the Ghana Education Service should outline sexual harassment policy. Yes, they have a code of conduct where they talk about sexual harassment, sexual violence. But we believe that they need a singular document on sexual harassment, and not just need a document, but the teachers should be retrained, and the children as well, so that both parties can report advances when it starts. We don't want it to happen before they report it. We want that when they start making the advances, the children should be able to report, and the punitive measures should be taken against those who try it.
Let me interact now with Rafiq Salam. Rafiq, if you can hear me, just let me know. And please unmute so we can hear what your response would be. I just want to confirm that you can hear me, Rafiq Salam. Can you hear me, Rafiq? Please unmute. Yes, please unmute. So I can hear you saying loud and clear, but please unmute so we can actually hear you. Hello? Okay, so I figure Rafiq Salam is still struggling to hear me. Rafiq, if you are close to any television set, hopefully not too close, all I'm trying to say is that unmute so we can actually connect with you.
Hello?
Right, it's better now that we have you on phone. Now, what we heard earlier was what happened to our girls when schools were closed down on the back of COVID-19. That figure of close to 700 is a great worry. What have been the reactions so far as this issue of close to 700 girls getting pregnant in schools on the back of COVID-19 is concerned?
In the Upper West region here, the people woke up to the news about the nearly 700 pupils who became pregnant during the era of COVID. It's not a welcome news. It's not good news that the people would like to hear. But speaking to some people in the Upper West region, they are not really surprised about the number of girls who were pregnant during that particular period. But what they are surprised is about the numbers. I have spoken to some non-governmental organizations on the issue, and they also peg the number of pupils or girls who are pregnant differently. One has to be with the chief executive officer of Life Again, and they peg the number to about 4,000. And so in that post, it's really a worrying development. Because when COVID came, it was part of the issue because many of the girls in the Upper West region, because school was not in session, some even went to illegal mining, went to Galamsey side, and even some traveled to the southern Gulf of the country in search of non-existent jobs. And so the people of the Upper West region, most of them are not really surprised about the number of girls that are pregnant during that era. But what they are surprised is about the figures that are being churned out by the Ghana Education Service.
So very high figures. I am curious, and I'm sure our viewers are curious as well, to find out what exactly is happening to these girls. Are they facing stigmatization, I should say, and how are the communities accommodating them? I know that sometimes these girls, through no fault of theirs, get into this situation, yet they are ostracized and all of that. What is happening to those you've interacted with?
Majority of them, what will their parents do? Because even I spoke to one of the girls who told me that even the guy who got her pregnant is even denying. And so as hard as her parents tried to talk to this guy to even accept the pregnancy, accept responsibility, but he wouldn't budge. And so some of the parents, they have, for now, they think that they have to live life again without these so-called boyfriends or people who impregnated their daughters. So it's really a worrying development. And so one of them I spoke to is even still pregnant at the moment, and then she's hoping to deliver in the next 2 months. But the guy who is alleged to have impregnated her is still denied. And so it's a worrying development. And so most communities, somewhere along the line, it's a norm. Because the only bad aspect of it is that they will think that if you are pregnant, you don't need not to go to school again. And so society largely is not ostracizing them, but at least they are learning to live with them.
And that indeed is a crucial point you make there with regard to what happens to a lot of these schoolgirls whose educational trajectory may be curtailed. But I'd like to find out, the men who are involved, if later confirmed, what happens to them in these communities?
In the Upper West region, I've always said that the one stumbling block or one major hurdle as far as trying to fight crime in the Upper West region has to be with this subculture of the people referred to here as Tijabunyini, meaning we are all one. Because the people in the Upper West region, majority of the people are not litigants, and so most cases are settled out of court. So I wouldn't be surprised if these issues that we're talking about, the nearly 700 girls that we are talking about, most of them, they would like or they would prefer to settle it out of the court settlement. They would like to do community settlement, which is really an affront to fighting crime in the Upper West region. And so most of them, few of them may go to court, but I can tell you that majority of them will be solved at the family level.
Finally, Rafiq, I'd like to find out from the standpoint of the Ghana Education Service. We were just deliberating, I together with Edward, about maybe stiffer penalties for people, men, who may impregnate teenagers in this way. What is the GES doing in terms of sexual harassment, among others? Stiffer penalties maybe to clamp down on this matter. If you've had any interactions with the GES, what have they been sharing with you?
The GES over the years, they have gotten some punitive measures involved, especially one, it has to deal with a teacher who somewhere impregnates a girl. But in the case of the larger society, one, the person is not a teacher, but it's somebody from the community. The GS, I don't think that have that. The GF doesn't have that strength. That doesn't have that wherewithal to at least get hold of these cases. So most of these cases are dealt at the community level. But if it comes to teachers, the GS, they have gotten penalty measures involved. But when it comes to community people, yes, their hands are tied when it comes to those issues.
Mr. Brumpong, so finally, to wrap on this conversation, what are you looking forward to seeing happen maybe within the next few months to stem the tide of these happenings? We've seen them year in and year out.
Can you hear me? Okay, I'm on. We believe that education always reduces such incidents. Let's not forget that at that young age, for them, they do not know, a lot of them do not fully understand the consequences. So they need a lot more education. So over the next few months, we are always calling on people to come on board to let us educate our children about sex and their sexuality and why they do not need to engage in such activities. Within the school environment, sex is spoken about undertones, but everybody, when they come back home, nobody talks about sex. In the school, when they go to school, they discuss sex among themselves. And yet parents are afraid. So we want to call on parents, community, everybody get your hand, want everybody on board. Sex education is vital for the development of our adolescents. We need to be brave about it. We need to talk about it so that they can get a fuller understanding, and that would make them not engage in such experimentation. So we are calling for more education for the younger ones, and then a comprehensive policy on sexual harassment from the ministry and from the Ghana Education Service.
Mr. Brumpong, thank you very much for engaging us on The Pulse. Kojo Brumpong is Executive Director, Educational Resources. We also had joining us my colleague Rafiq Salam, all the way from WA. Let's talk about vaccination rollouts, and the Ghana Health Service has begun administering the second doses of the AstraZeneca vaccines, targeting the nearly 350,000 persons who took their first jabs in March. The inoculations are expected to take place mainly in all 16 regions of the country where the first jabs were administered. In the Ashanti region, health officials say the exercise will begin on Wednesday, September the 1st, with more than 70,000 doses allocated to the region. There is more in this report.
Earth Rights and the Ghana Tourism Authority hosted the conference on tourism, COVID, and the environment on Wednesday.
But what's the vaccination rollout plan, especially in the regions? Here is the program's manager in charge of the expanded program on immunization, Dr. Kwame Amponsa Achiano, with details.
We've done approximately 850,000 persons, of whom a little over half have already received their second dose around somewhere in May. So we now have taken delivery of approximately 250,000 doses of AstraZeneca, and we want to continue with the second doses for those who have been waiting. So we have approximately 400 400,000 plus persons waiting for the second dose. So the plan is, once you get a vaccine and you look at the population, you definitely have to do a kind of equitable distribution, because the vaccines will not be enough to cover everybody at the same time. So what we've done is we've done some kind of sharing for all regions to benefit based on the data that we have. And so we've distributed our vaccines to all the 16 regions for those who have been waiting for the second dose. So that's the plan. And we're starting this week, today. First of all, you look at those that are most vulnerable. And in our case, it's the health workers. And of course, if you recall, when we first started, we also spoke of the elderly and the people with underlying conditions. So they were first taken care of when we started the vaccination exercise. And for every region, you had some number of persons within this category. So we share the vaccines first to cover some proportions of health workers and also some proportions of the general population with respect to those who are most vulnerable. And they were the ones who received the vaccines earlier on. You would also recall that when we started the second dose in May, we targeted persons who had received the vaccines from the 1st of March to the 9th of March. So it stands to reason that we just have to continue from the 10th of March. And looking at the data, when we end on the 29th, we would have dished out all the vaccines. And therefore, there will still be some almost 200,000 people who would have to get the second shot once we get vaccines next week, maximum within the next 2 weeks. We still have some vaccines in the pipeline, AstraZeneca vaccines, and even other vaccines like Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson. But for the purpose of this discussion, I would say that we are expecting 350,000 doses of AstraZeneca to be delivered to us within this week or next week, and then we can restart the second dose and complete it by the middle of September.
Well, the regional health director in Bono East says their work is cut out for them in terms of having data on the hotspots in the region.
If you look at our figures, you remember when we had a discussion, the 31st week, we use weeks. We recorded 220 new cases. Then the 32nd week, we recorded 200 new cases. And then the 33rd week, we recorded 135 cases, new cases. And then just the past week, we recorded 145 new cases. And for me, if you ask me, I think the measures that we have put in place are actually yielding results. And if we continue as we have been doing, definitely, I think the numbers are going to come down. So far, I appreciate where we are now, and I believe that we can still do more. We have been able to prioritize who should get it and where. You remember the last discussion that we had. If you look at the figures for Bono East, about 80% of all our cases are driven by only 4 districts. Bono East, we are having 11 districts. But if you look at the epidemiology of what is happening, about 80% of all these cases are coming from only 4 districts. So the idea is if you're able to tackle these districts, obviously you're able to bring down the spread. And then more importantly, even if you look at the districts where all these cases are coming from, for example, if you take Techima Municipal or Techima South, where almost we have a larger chunk of the cases coming from, they have 7 sub-districts making the Techima South. But if you look, 90% of all these cases is coming from only 1 sub-district. Okay. That is the Techima Central itself. So we believe that straight away, our job is well cut for us. We know where we have to spend our money. So we prioritize and make sure that, at least for what we have in mind, that we are going to ensure that we enforce the adherence to protocols. The security agencies, for that matter, are a priority because they are going to enforce that. And then if you also look at in Kranza South, it's also about 6 sub-districts. And thankfully, the driver is only in one of the sub-municipal, which is driving more than 80% of the new cases. So you see that our cases are well localized and lobulated, so that if you're able to channel all our energies in these sub-municipal.
Well, in other news, the Environmental Protection Agency is asking patrons of hotel services to go along with their own bath towels. The agency believes this will be one sure way of reducing the risk of contracting the fast-spreading COVID-19 virus, which has so far killed more than 1,000 people in Ghana and many more around the world. Director of Human Settlement Unit at the EPA, Cindy Bedu, was speaking at a conference on tourism, COVID, and environment.
Earth Rights and the Ghana Tourism Authority hosted the conference on tourism, COVID, and the environment on Wednesday at the Accra Tourist Information Center.
Earth Rights invited you because we believe that tourism is sitting on a three-legged stool now, namely environment and COVID. One of the legs is on the threat, the other leg is a threat, and quality concerned minds are needed to remove these threats.
The conference aimed to point out how to improve Ghana's tourism industry, especially with regard to the realities of the pandemic and the losses it has cost the tourism sector.
Tourism is the face of service, and tourism is the thing to help all of us.
The conference highlighted issues with training in the hospitality industry and discussed how to improve Ghanaian service standards in order to attract more tourists.
The person should incentivize that service, and that's what we're looking at, the person. You know, don't take somebody who doesn't like to smile at the reception. You say, not too much revolving. Hello, can I help you? You know, that's what we are looking at. So,
but the lack of hospitality training isn't the only issue in the tourist industry today.
The disruptive and devastating effect of COVID-19 pandemic, especially in the tourism and hospitality industry, is well known and highly visible with its socio-economic and developmental effects.
Obviously, you have to go through all these travel advisory processes and then restrictions vis-a-vis COVID tests on arrival, quarantines. Fortunately, in Ghana, even though we have a very rigorous system in place, way of screening tourist arrivals, we still have to go through certain protocols. So that in itself also restricts tourist arrival. The Delta variant, one can't be so sure, and that's where, you know, somehow the citizens lose guard and then things go a bit off the mark.
Mr. Kwesi Eyason also added that the Ghana Tourism Federation was having challenges to ensure that tourists adhered to COVID protocols, but they would soon lay out strategies that would ensure Ghana maintains its position as the top country when it comes to COVID management. This is Natalie Miking reporting for JoyNews.
Now, hundreds of residents in Wusuta in the Volta region have given government and the Inspector General of Police a one-week ultimatum to halt the activities of nomadic herdsmen, failing which they will take the law into their hands. The residents, who are predominantly farmers, say hundreds of hectares of farms in the area have been destroyed by the herdsmen and their marauding cattle, leaving them poor. The aggrieved farmers, who embarked on a demonstration Tuesday, are threatening reprisals and want government and the Inspector General of Police to address their concerns. Some of them have been speaking to JoyNews.
We have these cattle invasions, and in actual fact, most of our farms were destroyed. From 2017 till now, most of our farms were destroyed. Our yam farms, cassava farms, granule farms, maize farms, etc. We have tried severally to lodge complaint with authorities, but nothing has been attended or nothing has been done about it. And for that reason, we are inviting the media today to send our case far and near so that we can be heard and and come to our rescue, because now we have to import cassava dough, maize, plantain, cassava for fufu, everything from outside Usuta. Meanwhile, we have big vast land to do all these activities. And these cattle rearers or the herdsmen, Fulani people, they are also threatening our youth. So the youth don't want to go to the bush. When they see them, they start to shoot warning shot, give warning.
Well, that's the desperate situation there. We're joined now by our Volta regional correspondent, Ivy Setoji, who gives us more details on the matter. Ivy, just how bad is the situation which has pushed these farmers to give this ultimatum?
Well, the situation is very bad in that over 100 acres have been destroyed. Maize farms, yam farms have been destroyed by these herdsmen. We actually went to the farm and then we saw the destruction. And the women are also complaining that they are being threatened sexually or being harassed sexually by these herdsmen. So the situation in Wusuta especially is very bad, and government's attention according to the residents.
Hello, I'm Dori Nando. You can catch up with all the fun on the Cosmopolitan Mix and on all our shows via podcast. Just go to My Joy Online podcast and search for your favorite show and relive those moments all over again. Only on Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
And welcome back. It's time now for sporting action, and the usual culprit is here, Oreku Ampofu. You know how we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a countdown later tonight, but give us a sneak peek of some of the transfer deadline deals that could happen.
Well, there's still a lot of possibilities. No one envisaged a transfer window where we would see Ronaldo leave, we would see Messi leave, we would see Romelu Lukaku.
No one saw that coming.
Definitely. So the precedence has been set. And, you know, in previous transfer windows, deadline day has always been hot, full of surprises. So even, you know, if the usual that is supposed to be so slow has given us a Ronaldo and Messi move, then you can imagine what would happen in the final few hours. Just an idea of teams that are still in the market. Manchester United want a defensive midfielder. Chelsea are looking for a central
Fred,
midfielder.
as a Man U fan, I speak for most Man U fans, Fred must go.
Oh yeah, a lot of people
he must go.
A lot of people are down that lane as well. But yeah, Chelsea also need a central midfielder and a defender. And then Manchester City, we don't know if they'll still go for a striker. It looks a bit too late. Real Madrid just announced Camavinga, but then their hopes of signing Mbappe.
He's been on their radar.
Yeah, we don't know whether Mbappe would still try and, you know, conjure
Mbappe's
something
likely
in the
for
final
next
hours.
year.
Yeah,
right?
likely
when he gets to become a free agent.
Yeah, but anything is just a phone call away. And, you know, so there's still a lot. Barcelona said that they need a striker, and they've just sold, you know, Moriba, who's a midfielder, and they've got about 15 million now. And so we'll see what they do with that money in the final few hours. The coach said he needs a striker, and they said they'll try and get him one in the final hours. So there's still a possibility of some strange transfers happening. And in terms of Ghanaian transfers, I think it's all done. We have a wrap of that for you that we'll play on the show. It all starts here on the JoyNews channel at 9 p.m. So do make sure to tune in.
Well, thank you very much for staying with us. You can check out more stories at myjoyonline.com. This is where I sign off. My name is Benjamin Akako. Thank you for the company, but we leave you with Let's Talk Showbiz, LTS. Do say.
Hello, I'm Dori Nando. You can catch up with all the fun on the Cosmopolitan Mix and on all our shows via podcast. Just go to My Joy Online podcast and search for your favorite show and relive those moments all over again. Only on Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Well,
Well, with just 2 days to Something Must Kill a Man, a play by Lateef Abubakar. You're welcome to Let's Talk Showbiz right here on the Joy News channel. I'm so excited because, yes, with just 2 days, it's just around the corner. And I'm definitely here to bring you nothing but the best in your world of showbiz. So updating yourself on everything that has been happening. Well, today we are going to, try and dissect all the issues between Stonebwoy and Gamro. Stonebwoy in the UK, Gamro in Ghana, the back and forth and all that. We'll bring all of that right here on the show for you. Plus, there was a press conference today at Gamro. My name is Doreen Avio and the show is Let's Talk Showbiz. If you're just tuning in, this is Let's Talk Showbiz, and we are starting with Stonebwoy versus Gamro. So, ahead of the Yam Festival over the weekend, Stonebwoy was in London. He went to see the British High Commissioner, and he spoke about Gamro, how, he received only 2,000 Ghana cedis as royalties. The High Commissioner was quite shocked. And it sent a lot of, should I say, meanings into what he said. So later, one of my colleagues, Mapito, went to Gamro to actually have a conversation with the chairman. That is Rex Omar and Eja Abraham. They also gave their side of the story. And, it's been some way. But today on Daybreak Hit, Stonebwoy was back to explain why he actually spoke to the British High Commissioner. And he said that with the whole back, he said there's nothing like Stonebwoy versus Gamro. I guess he's just trying to say that it's musicians versus Gamro. But hey, let's hear what Stonebwoy told Andy Dusty earlier on Daybreak Hits.
When he went to the Ghana High Commissioner, what brought up this conversation? Because, well, we all know that he is not in any way connected to music or Gamro.
Thank you. But he is in every way our father as well.
For sure,
he is an able founding member of the MPP, a political star, a political guru. So these are the right ears to hear our plight. All the social media ones and all the individual complaints will add up. But should you get an opportunity like this to meet an honorable person like this out of the shores of Ghana, conversations sprung up in that room where even I am like, hey, if our fathers are saying that they are tired of certain things, how much more us? So then you realize it goes beyond it goes beyond us. Do you know what I mean? So this is where we were having a conversation across boards on how we were doing as musicians and artists, because I actually came into this country for musical purpose, and therefore the embassy also is there for us as a home for us to discuss. So I believe that discussion was right in place. Because he as the HC governs everything,
right?
And I was able to give me that listening ear, and we had a very beautiful conversation, which has actually raised back this important topic. You see how it was very shocking.
Yeah, personally, how much were you expecting to be paid?
I wasn't expecting anything less than or more than what I deserve. That's all.
Which, if you say more than what you deserve.
And Mr. Andy, I'm not actually, I didn't go to Gamro to say that, hey, I'm here. Give me all my money that you owe me. Because this subject has become very, very important, as in, it has become the artist against Gamro.
Right.
I wouldn't be the first one to raise this. We will continue to raise this every day. So I'll just follow through, and then before I also add the little submission that I have. So I didn't go to Gamro with the intention like the way the woman went and cursed and burst egg. No. I think it wasn't too long after that when I went there.
Okay.
That was not my intention to go and say, I wanted to understand. And that's why I called on a meeting. And they in turn gave me a listening ear, which I very much respect till date. And then we had a round table and we conversed. That was where they even revealed that, oh, this is what I have sitting here. I was actually even amazed that I have up to 2,000 CDs, because that means my case was better anyway.
Okay.
I also want to repeat again that this is not a Stonebwoy versus Gamro issue.
Why do you keep hitting on that? Do you think people are against you, or they think that you are rather instigating musicians to go against them or something? It seems you've been hitting on that on several occasions.
Yeah, I should, because that is how it's making it seem, and it's not the case. You know what I mean? And we are just addressing issues that matters when it comes to us as creatives and musicians. And for a press conference and all these one, that tells you it's a very, very important issue. So we should regard it as such and not see it as a stone boy, because I know we are all Ghanaians. I know how we take things. Like, I'm not trying to disrespect Uncle Rex or Uncle Abraham, 000. But I think that we should, I should be able to come forth with whatever it is when things are not working well, except they say things are working well. Then we all just keep quiet.
Right, so those were Stone Boy's explanations that, his reason for going to him is because he's a big man. And, of course, it was a visit and the conversation came up, so he decided to let him know what was going on in the music industry here in Ghana. Plus, there's no issue between Stone Boy and Gamro. He just wanted to let us know or clear the air on that. And also, today there was a press conference from Gamro. My colleague Ivy was there to get some updates on some of their projects they are rolling up for this year. And, here's what has been happening at Gamro.
Okay. So this morning on Hit 103.9 on a Daybreak Hit, which is the morning show with Andy Dusty, they were having a conversation with Stone Boy, and the issue came up again, and they asked Stone Boy, but Stone Boy said he sent his lawyers to come here for data, and the data has still not even gotten to the lawyers for him to get. Is there any iota of truth in this?
I had a show with our colleague, the South African lady. What's her name? Mapito. And then we had a detailed discussion. I want to put this Stone Boy issue to bed. Stone Boy has said two things, and they are all correct. There are times in life you must accept where you are wrong. That is the basis and foundation upon which you move on in life. I'm a fully grown embryo. Stone Boy said he has been given only 2,000. Our records are indicative that he has been given 2,000. And why did we give him 2,000 at that time? When we came, we realized that some of the younger ones were not getting money at all. We decided to deploy a system, said that you understand, you be use royalties nearby, so that they can come. And then we flay out royalty payments even when they have not done registrations, they have not done any split sheets, they have not updated. Some of them joined and followed. Others, they even gave instruction to their management team. Their management team didn't come to do anything. After that, the board decided that, look, the right belongs to them. They must come. So the last time we met Stone Boy was last year. He came with the whole team. We had pictures here, and we told Stone Boy that please come with your updated records. And we will also do our updated records in terms of how much is owed to you. As we sit today, the updated records have been done about how much Stone Boy has here. My brother, bro, the money day here, it be you where you there. Make you come. Or send your people. If he says that he has sent his lawyer, I have not met the lawyer. The lawyer is my close friend. We have sat here and we have had discussion. Nobody has come to follow up. So in order to put this matter to bed and appropriately, we should not let this top artist of ours be seen in the bad light. We should accept that as we see today, Gamro has not paid him the rest of his royalties, but he too had not come. That are outside Ghana, where Ghanaian works are used, we sign reciprocal agreement. That is the industry norm. So whilst they look after our works, we also look after their works in this territory. But Kapaso is a South African society that has specialized facilities to monitor works that are used on the digital divide. So instead of Gamro replicating or going to reinvest in that system, we say, look, let's make Kapaso. They have the wherewithal, they have the facilities, they have the network, they have the contact. Let them work for us. So we have signed reciprocal agreement with them so that they are inspecting and overseeing the digital live performances that is happening.
How about the traditional media in these respective places?
The traditional media is that Gamro has an agreement with SAMRO, the South African Music Rights Organization, and that is what we share. As we sit currently, Gamro has not received the report from SAMRO about music that is used in that territory. That is the traditional, because actually it is small, minute. But whatever it is, we should receive. And we too have not been able to furnish them with ours because we are demanding that reciprocal agreement. So we have started a process of formatting the reciprocal agreement, because you can sign the reciprocal agreement, but you must also format the process of how you exchange data and collect information, and then how you do reconciliation.
Well,
all right, so that was the press conference that happened earlier on today at Gamro, and we're hoping that after this, we'll get to, more information on how musicians can make more money and all of that. The back and forth can stop, and then Stonebwoy can also get more money from Gamro. Now, as I mentioned earlier, with just 2 days to Something Must Kill a Man, a play by Lateef Abubakar, we have great personalities endorsing the play at the Labadi Beach Hotel. And today we're getting something from Abeku Santana, John DeMello, and also actress Martha Nkoma. And it's just to let you know that it is a good one and you can't afford to miss it. Something must definitely kill a man.
Hi, my name is Martha Nkoma, and I'm inviting you to come watch a play by Lateef Abubakar. It's an open-air theater, and it's starting from 2nd September, 3rd, 4th, showing at the Labadi Beach Hotel, and you just can't miss it. The title is Something Must Kill a Man, so come have fun, 7 p.m. each night at the Labadi Beach Hotel. Something Must Kill a Man, you have to be there.
Something must kill a man. On the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th September, come and experience an open air theater by our brother Abdul Lateef. So I'm inviting you. My name is Abeku Santana. I'm going to be there on the 2nd, on the 3rd, and 4th of September, 7 p.m. sharp at Labadi Beach Hotel. Don't forget, 3 days non-stop. Action Kwa. Something must kill a man.
Something Must Kill a Man, a play by Lateef Abubakar at the Labadi Beach Hotel Open Air Theater. 5 more days. Something must kill a man. I mean, definitely something must kill a man. Yeah, something must kill a man. So 5 more days. Lateef Abubakar's play. See you there.
All right, so you heard it all from them. What else are you waiting for? Have you gotten your tickets yet? If you haven't gotten it, I can show you one place to get your tickets right now. You can come to the front desk of Joy FM or go to the Labadi Beach Hotel. Go and get your ticket. You can't afford to miss this play. Listen, we actually go to watch a play and we also get to be educated. You can't miss it. Well, that'll be it for Let's Talk Showbiz today's edition. My name is Doreen Avia. Very big thank you to you guys for production of Say Ike, my beautiful lady here. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Doreen Avio, and on Instagram it's Doreen_Avio. Until then, have a great evening.